Hi, my name is B and welcome back to another video in the hysterectomy series. Just for reference, I'm 23 years old. I got a hysterectomy at the age of 21. The video detailing the circumstances of my hysterectomy are going to be linked in the bio, as well as all of my socials, just in case you have any questions. Today's video, we're going to be discussing questions that I wish I would have asked at my consult or pre-op appointments. All of the information contained in this video is also in a helpful little guide that I will also link in the bio. So let's get into it. Starting with the most obvious, do you really need a hysterectomy? Unfortunately, in my case, I had late onset endometrial ablation failure and hysterectomy was the only cure available. But in some cases, it might not even be necessary. You know your body better than anyone else, so if you feel like you need a hysterectomy, absolutely advocate for yourself. But some of us may not want that option. I highly recommend getting multiple opinions if you've been told that hysterectomy is the only option for you. So you've just been told that you need a hysterectomy. What kind of hysterectomy do you need? There's a partial hysterectomy, which only removes the uterus, a total hysterectomy, which removes the uterus and the cervix, that's what I had done, or a radical hysterectomy, which removes the uterus, the cervix, and part of the vagina. Another thing you may want to know is if you can keep your ovaries. Myself, I had one ovary removed. The loss of ovaries will send you into menopause and can cause health issues if you're below a certain age. You'll also want to know if you're removing your fallopian tubes. A lot of surgeons go ahead and do this if they remove the ovaries. Not only will you need to know what type of hysterectomy you're having, but you'll need to know what kind of surgery you're having too. It can be an abdominal surgery, which opens up the whole abdomen, a laparoscopic hysterectomy, which uses 3 to 5 incisions in your stomach, or a robotic assisted surgery, which uses typically a Da Vinci robot to go in through 3 to 5 incisions in your stomach. As previously discussed, you will also want to ask if there's anything that you can do to avoid a hysterectomy, unless you know for certain that you want a hysterectomy. There may be nothing you can do, but you might be able to postpone it for a little while longer. The next question should be, when do you need the hysterectomy? If you want to postpone, it may be an option to wait a few years. For myself personally, I was in a lot of pain before my hysterectomy. I wanted to know what I could do to keep the pain at a minimum. If you have painful conditions such as adenomyosis, endometriosis, or PCOS, there may be some medications available to help keep that pain at a tolerable level. Of course, if you're at the stage needing a hysterectomy, you probably know most of these. I was so incredibly fortunate to have an insurance that covered most of my hysterectomy. I understand what a privilege that was, so another question that I urge you ask at your consult, not at the pre-op appointment, is what steps do you need to take to get insurance to cover the hysterectomy? It could be possible that the office will reach out for a prior authorization for you. Most insurance will only approve hysterectomies if you're at a certain age or if it's absolutely medically necessary and you've exhausted all other resources. If you have one or both of your ovaries removed, you may need to start hormone replacement therapy. I'd go ahead and ask what that will look like, or if you even need it. Looking ahead after the surgery, you may want to ask if you'll benefit from pelvic floor therapy. Whether or not you have your cervix removed, vaginal prolapse is always a risk following hysterectomies. Pelvic floor therapy can help with reducing that risk by strengthening your vaginal floor. I had pelvic floor therapy and I can personally say it was a game changer. So I just learned that my phone decided to stop recording about halfway through, so I apologize if anything has shifted during this video. Now on to pre-op questions. First and foremost, what's your recovery time going to look like? Every single person and every single body is different and no one's going to recover the same. But there are still some baseline recovery windows that you can look at. If I haven't already, there will be a video on this subject on what my personal recovery looked like. If you're working, you'll want to know how long you need to take off work. Once again, this will be gone over in the recovery video. I took off 6 weeks and I used every single day of them. Some people need to take less and some people need to take more. This is largely dependent on how you recover and what type of surgery you had. You'll also want to know when you can return to normal activities. Once again, for most people, this is about 6 weeks. And you'll want to know when you can return to more strenuous activities like exercising and sex. I was cleared after 8.5 weeks, but to go about it with caution and careful supervision. If you're a side or a stomach sleeper like I am, you'll want to know how long it'll take before you can get back to that. Honest to God, that was one of the hardest adjustments, was learning how to sleep on my back instead of on my side. This was more prevalent during COVID era. I had my surgery during peak COVID times. I needed to know if I could bring someone into the hospital with me. Fortunately, at that time I could, and I don't really see it being an issue now, but it wouldn't hurt to ask. How long will you need to stay in the hospital? For most laparoscopic surgeries, you'll be discharged within the same day or have a one-night stay. If you have an abdominal hysterectomy, or if there are any complications, you can expect to be there from 2 to 5 days. Are there any medications that you need to stop taking before the surgery? Some medications may cause blood loss or other serious complications. Your doctor will know which ones and will advise you on which ones to stop taking. You'll also want to know how long the surgery is going to take. For me, I arrived at the hospital at 5:30. They got me prepped for surgery and took me back at 7:30. I have no earthly idea what time I was out of that room, but I know that I was discharged around 1:30, 2 o'clock. And the last question that I would ask is if you could have an itemized quote after your hysterectomy. This isn't something that they'll be able to provide beforehand because they won't know what they'll use in the hysterectomy until they're there using it. But I absolutely recommend an itemized list of your expenses. Not only will they probably knock some stuff off, but it's always good to know exactly what you're being charged for. If not, your provider may be able to tell you how much the services are for the hysterectomy itself, but not including things like anesthesia in the operating room. Now, these aren't really questions, but these are things to consider before getting a hysterectomy to help you with after the hysterectomy. I know it's a taboo subject, but if you aren't already, I would highly recommend getting into therapy. While you may not have ever wanted children, and while you may be welcoming and waiting for the surgery, it's still a big trauma to your body and a life-changing experience. While most of these changes are going to be for the better, like no more pain and no more periods, some of these may be a little bit difficult to adjust to, like changes in your body, including hot flashes, changes in your mood, your breasts getting bigger or getting very tender, and stuff of that nature. Something that I struggled with a lot was feeling guilt and feeling a loss of my femininity. It took so many people to drive this home to me. It took my husband, my mom, my sister, really my whole support team, and my therapist to let me know that my womanhood and my femininity are not tied to my uterus. They were not tied to the surgery. They were not tied to my ability to have children. Next point is it's okay to grieve this and it's okay to not grieve this. Your feelings either way are 100% valid. I know that I grieved a lot. I grieved not being able to have children. I grieved the loss of my youth when I was going through painful periods and I wasn't able to do things like normal children. I grieved a lot of different things, and that's okay. I know other women who were so excited for this hysterectomy and they didn't grieve at all, and that's okay. Either way that you fall on the spectrum, and it is a very wide spectrum, is totally fine. One thing I wasn't prepared for is my body changing after the hysterectomy. Whether it was the scarring, the weight gain, the emotional side effects, or simply just the absence of pain, your body will change. With that being said, it is okay that your body changes. It is okay that your belly has scars, and it is okay that you don't look or feel the same that you did pre-op. It's normal. It's gonna happen. Not everyone will gain weight. Not everyone's breasts will get bigger. Not everyone will have the same severity of the scars, but your body is gonna change, and that's okay. It's okay if you take time away from friends and family that have babies or are pregnant. I had a really hard time being around my nieces and nephews, even some of my younger siblings and my friends with kiddos, just because it hurt so bad to know that I wouldn't have that same experience. It's okay if you take that time apart. Recovery is not linear. You're not going to start out down here and then progress your way up and just feel great. I had a lot of setbacks physically and emotionally, and I'll still sometimes have some setbacks. That's okay and it's normal. Doesn't make it fun, but it is normal. And finally, there are several other content creators out there that are very open about their experiences with their hysterectomy or with their endometriosis, adenomyosis, or PCOS or other conditions. I've linked those in that little hysterectomy guide, and the list is ever growing. If you have any that you know of, please feel free, reach out to me, let me know, and I'll add them to the list. There is yours truly. I am an open book. I share my experiences freely. I say this frequently, but if there are ever any questions that you have, truly no questions are out of bounds. But there are several content creators out there who just share their story, and it's super helpful. That does it for this video. I hope that these questions and considerations were helpful. If you're watching this, I'm sorry that you're in this boat, but I am hopeful that these videos will serve as a helpful tool to help you navigate your way through this. And you will make it through this. I am fully confident in that. Anywho, that does it for today's video. Thank you for tagging along, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.